when I can see the end zone, like when the theme from Chariots of Fire starts playing, like I'm almost done with it, that is actually when I go my slowest because I'm just like, oh dear goodness, how much longer is this going to be? How many more rows can I go? I'm playing yarn chicken with this because I have done that before and I have won several times.
Four elements for four purposes. Hook, yarn, skill, and determination become art, service, therapy, and focus. Laura Hansen-Brexa talks with thread artist Jenny Chapman on Intent on Purpose.
Hello, Jenny, and thank you for being on Intent on Purpose.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this.
Jenny crochets, and I have seen some of her work, and people I am very close to have received her work as gifts. And we're going to talk about crochet today. And no, it's not just for old ladies. It's a very hip thing, especially on Instagram, lots of cool projects. She does lots of cool things. Jenny, how did you know that crochet was something you wanted to spend time on? Because I do believe you spend some time on.
I spend quite a bit of time on it, actually. So I first learned from my Grammy when I was about 15 or 16 years old. And I picked it up again about 10 years ago, roughly, because I was working a high stress job and I needed something to help calm me down at the end of the day. And that was really what brought it back up again. And I have been making projects pretty much ever since.
What's your favorite stitch?
Oh, I would have to say the double crochet. It's just, it takes up a lot of space. It uses up good material and it is one that is used in a lot of projects. The one stitch that is used in every project that I've ever made, no exceptions asked, is definitely the chain stitch. You cannot do a crochet project without knowing how to do a chain.
And that starts them off, right?
Yes, it also continues it from one row to the next or one round from to the next, depending on what you're making.
Now I've seen people crochet bath mat.
I've made a couple of those actually.
Okay, because you don't think of bath mats when you think of crochet. What's the oddest thing that you've seen made out of crochet, or one of the most
Oh,
unexpected things, I guess I should say, that you've made or you've seen made?
that is a very good question. So the oddest thing that I think I have ever made was, ironically enough, it is a bath mat. It is sitting right outside of my door, or it's a doormat, rather, I should say. The oddest thing that I think I've ever seen was, oh my goodness. I'm not really sure because I have seen some very out there projects, but I've also seen some that are very cute and wholesome. I have a friend of mine in the same modeling group that I'm with, and she recently crocheted a stuffed Kansas City Chiefs bear for, I think, her niece or her nephew, and it looks amazing.
Animals, I guess. So, why do you think crochet is becoming hip, or has it been hip? And I'm just catching on.
It has not been, it was not hip when I was a kid. I know that, but I always went against what everybody else in my age demographic was
You
doing.
little rebel, you're a rebel.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I could watch this mindless TV show or I could make something and do something productive while listening to an audiobook. I'll take the latter option for 200, please. But I think that part of the reason why it's coming back into the zeitgeist is really the advent of lockdown. If you'll remember, there were a lot of people who just sat at home, didn't really have anything to do, and there were a lot of craft projects that got picked up again and reintroduced into the zeitgeist. And this was one of them. And I didn't know that lockdown was going to happen, but I knew that something like this would come back because once you start to get the hang of it, you start to see that the repetitive motions are very calming and soothing, especially if, like me, you may have ADD or you may be, somebody who has a little bit of a different wired brain, as I call it, and you need something calming to focus on. So I did teach crochet at Joann's, RIP. I miss that store so much.
Should we have a moment of silence? Let's move on.
Yeah. I also spent way more money than I should have when it was going out of business getting all of the yarn for really, really cheap. But
That was you that took all the yarn.
sorry. In my defense, in my defense, every single skein that I got already has a project attached to it, even if I have not yet gotten around to making it.
All right, that's good.
Okay.
It's very good for a crafter.
The guy who I dated years ago, he was a better crocheter than I am at the time because he knew more techniques than I did. But I would like to think that I have advanced and am better for it in the grand scheme of things.
And some things. Now, I think it's interesting. Okay, I learned how to crochet when I was 10, and my skills have not improved because I've not put time into it. I'm sure that if I put time into it. And what I make are those dish towels because I think they're really cool and spread really well.
Yes.
But I have yet to make one that is square. They get smaller, they get wider, because I don't count. Okay, it's laziness on my part, but it is relaxing and it's nice to have something that's finished. Even though I like put the string through the finish, I mean, they're bad, okay, but they work just as well. But it's the process is fun. And I like that cotton one, but sugar and cream. I'm at the level I was 40 something years ago when I was 10. So tell me how it feels when you get to a certain level where you're going fast and making stuff. Tell me what that feels like because I don't know.
Goodness, I would not call myself an expert by any stretch of the imagination. I just, the reason why I say that is because it's really a matter of motivation. Once it's kind of like once you get into that zone, it's kind of like, okay, I can block everything else out and just go. And the irony is, I've always found that when I'm starting a new project, I'm going in that zone. I'm really, really fast, and then about halfway through, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is more annoying than I thought. And when I can see the end zone, like when the theme from Chariots of Fire starts playing, like I'm almost done with it, that is actually when I go my slowest because I'm just like, oh dear goodness, how much longer is this going to be? How many more rows can I go? Okay, am I playing yarn chicken with this? Because I have done that before and I have won several times, but I've also lost several times as well.
Okay, pause, pause. Yarn chicken.
Yarn chicken is when you take a look to see how much yarn you have left and you have to kind of guess as to how much you need to finish your current project and if you currently have enough.
Okay.
Because
And
the
you're hoping
last
you don't have enough so you don't have to finish it?
no, you're hoping that you do have enough so that you don't have to go out and get more because I
Oh,
have
okay.
had that happen where I was almost done with a project and I ran out of yarn and I was not allowed to leave to go get any more for another 4 hours. It was very, very
Oh,
torturesome.
just at the end, just at the finish
Yes.
line.
Yeah, Chariots of Fire theme is playing, and then all of a sudden, do
God,
do 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 do. No.
Granny Smith squares.
Yes.
Tell me about what you can do. How don't they look complicated?
Actually, they're not. This is one of the first things that a lot of people learn how to make. I did not learn how to make them until several years after the fact, but they are also, you said that you wanted to make more projects that were in an even square. A granny square is a great way to do that. And I know that on the back of the a couple of the Lily Sugar and Cream labels, they do have granny square patterns on there. So that is something to consider. Right now, I'm actually making a blanket for one of my students that is utilizing several different sizes of granny squares. It's not all the same size. I did that last semester for a different one of my students. These are kids who are in my school's arts and crafts club and who are seniors and going to be graduating. So they're all getting a unique made one because I don't repeat patterns, but I repeat colors all the time. I mean, I'd have to, otherwise I'd be on the dock. So, all right, what kind of colors you got here? You got a new dye lot for me? Sort of a thing.
And yarn and paper bags. Was that
Absolutely, yes. Actually, that is pretty much how I used to have to bring in any yarn stash. I used to live down the street from the Joann's in Metairie, and I was living with one of my best friends, and she and I are both crafters, but she makes jewelry instead. And so we had a rule where if one of us was going to Joann's, the other one had to either A, come with, or B, call after about 30 minutes just to make sure that the other person wasn't going crazy overboard.
my goodness.
There were a lot of calls that were made, well, to me more than anything else.
Life is yarn. Yarn is life.
I need to put that on a motivational poster.
Oh, man. I think it's wonderful that you love something so much that brings you such joy, peace, excitement.
Well, I
Yeah.
think that anybody who has any sort of hobby or any sort of activity that they enjoy, life is too short to really hide your light under a bushel, for or lack of a better term there. And if it's something that you enjoy and you're not harming either yourself or somebody else, why wouldn't you share that with other people? Like case in point, right after I started really getting back into crochet in earnest a few years ago, I started making blankets for the first time. And um one of the previous jobs that I had before I got at my current job, I was in charge of donation requests. And I even asked, like, hey, can I add another donation on top of this? Because I would vet every single location that would ask for donations. And unless they were, horrible people who promoted kicking puppies or something like that, we would always give them a donation. And then I would donate something on top of that. It took 6 months for me to get my entire crafting closet cleaned out of items that I had already made and 3 months of lockdown to fill it back up again.
So that's another thing, the donations. But I think we've talked about this before.
Me.
I wanted to bring it up again. Tell me about selling your work versus giving your work away versus just hoarding it.
Gotcha. So I personally don't sell anything that I make because the time added to there's an actual formula to calculate how much something would go for a retail price. You take the cost of the material and then add it to the amount of time that it took you to make. That covers your supplies, your cost of supplies. You multiply that by two, that gets you the wholesale value. Multiply the wholesale value by it two again, and that gives you the retail value. So if you do the math on that, my creations end up being several hundred to a couple $1,000s each. And I cannot in good conscience charge that much for something. So what I've always done is if I have a friend who is getting married or they're about to have a baby or coworkers, those sorts of things, then I will make something for them that is a unique creation. And I'm still in touch with a lot of the folks who had requested donations in the past, and I'll donate to them until basically I drop dead, as it were.
So that's the love of the game.
It is, really, it really is, and it's also a good way to find them a good home as well, because, like, this past summer, for instance, I went to the UPS store, once a week, just sending out blankets to different people, whether it was to family members who had not yet received one, or to, different people who had asked for some. Like, I was flying up for my baby niece's baptism at the start of the summer, and I had 2 flight attendants who saw that I was working on a blanket, like, on the plane, and they really liked it. I was like, "Okay, well, do you want this when I'm done?" And they looked at me like, "Wait, what?" I'm like, "Yeah, give me your names and your mailing address, and I will mail you one as soon as they are ready." And then they came back to me with a big old bag of snacks for me to eat while I was working on it. Um,
Trading peanuts.
Oh my gosh, yes, I got all the snacks. It was brilliant. So they both got one over the summer, and I also added in a dish towel and a scarf and a couple of other smaller items that I had made that really did need good homes. And I heard back from both of them. They were both very appreciative. I'm like, "That's great. I'm so glad you like them."
Oh, that's nice. Now, have you ever worked with the itty bitty thin? And
Yes.
you can make bookmarks out of it so thin.
Yeah, so that's a different kind of material, and it is a skill level that is one that kind of intimidates me. I have the material, I have the skill set, but it's also a matter of if I make a mistake on something that's bigger, it's easier to hide. But if I make a mistake in a smaller size bit of yarn, it is a lot harder to hide because it shows up in a bigger way. And yes, my work is absolutely riddled with mistakes. If you any of you can find them, you get $10. That's only you I'm talking to right now. But
'Cause I
it's
couldn't find them.
exactly. Exactly. But it is very intimidating to approach work like that because you really do want to get it right the first time, and after a while it does become a labor of love in the grand scheme of things that you really do want to put your best effort into, and you don't want to hide any mistakes. You want to just frog it, in other words, rip part of that out. That's why we call it frog, because you rip it sort of thing. It's a joke among us. But, it's really is something that is very labor intensive, and I am actually a little bit more intimidated by the finer lace work than I am of making a full-blown blanket.
Grandmother used to make crocheted edges on tablecloths.
Those are the ones that actually use up the most materials, is
Right.
the borders and the lacy, borders on a lot of different things. Those end up actually using more supplies than the actual item that you made itself.
Mm. So, tell me about have you used that big, thick chenille type yarn? The poofy
Yes, I have. I
poofy
have used
stuff?
that
Do you like that
before.
stuff, or do you like the normal
So I
seam
like a bunch of different types of material. My
yarn?
main type material that I prefer is size 4 acrylic yarn. And most yarn purists are just looking at me like, how dare you? Sort of a thing.
There
Because a
are
lot of
yarn purists?
there are, yes, I have met several of them. There are some who will go to different craft fairs, different yarn fair, well, not yarn fairs, but different locations to get um, yarn from a certain type of animal, whereas acrylic is a synthetic material.
Mhm.
So it's not fully fur or hair or whatever it is. But I have seen other people make yarn out of the most interesting things. Like I have a friend of mine years and years and years ago made yarn out of her dog's hair. She did a drop spindle, which is a very, very old technique where you kind of twist it as you go along. And she didn't crochet it, she wove it into a mat for her dog to sleep on because it was something that was comforting to him and to the other family dog as well. It was very, very intense. I'm sitting here watching, going, wow. I can't do
In
that,
the
but I'm
in
so
the old,
intrigued.
you know, the 1800s,
Yes.
so with human hair.
Yes, I have seen that done before,
Yeah, that's pretty
actually.
cool, but a mat with your dog's hair.
Yeah, and
Wow.
it's actually something that the material did not go to waste either, because you clean up after the animal and, you just throw it into the bin. Well, she thought of a really interesting way to recycle that, and I'm sitting there going, "Okay, you're gonna be on my apocalypse survival team."
So speaking of recycling, have you ever taken a sweater and taken yarn off of a sweater and reused it?
Oh, that
Oh.
is a skill level that is way above my level. I have made sweaters before. I made a couple of ugly Christmas sweaters that one of them won best handmade, and I'm sitting there going, "Yeah, you better give me best handmade." No one else handmade their sweaters.
So what else is there about it? Tell me anything else that you can think that makes you happy. That is a passion.
Well, it's the issue of that productivity, because I know that there are a lot of folks who they need that structure. They need that sense of accomplishment of, okay, I can check this off of a to-do list and I feel like I've accomplished something. So when you make a patch like what I just finished making a few minutes ago, it's not only, a patch in a blanket, but hang on, I just finished sewing this yesterday. This is the first row that I made using that patch. And this is
Mhm.
going to be a blanket in the next couple of months here. it's also gives you that sense of accomplishment, that sense of, hey, I achieved something. I did something, important. And it's not just, sitting on in front of a screen and just scrolling mindlessly or playing a game on your phone or your tablet or anything like that. You can actually physically see and touch the end product of what you made and know that, oh, this is going to be something that's useful. This is something that's going to help make somebody's life a little bit easier, whether it's a dish towel or a scarf or a hat or a blanket or even a stuffed animal, that sort of a thing. And it's really bringing that sense of usefulness back, which I think that a lot of people really do need in their lives. They need that sense of, hey, I'm doing something important. I'm doing something that matters. If it doesn't matter to anybody else, it matters to me. And this item that I'm making is eventually going to find a good home and be useful to somebody else.
Hmm. And if it wasn't, it would still be worth it.
Absolutely, yes, 'cause, I've made hundreds of items at this point in my life, and I've kept 2 of them. One of them is the doormat right outside my door, and the other one is a hat that I made. I used to have a laundry hamper about hip high off the ground, just full of hats, scarves, shawls, and other smaller items that I had made. Well, one evening, I was headed out to a Mardi Gras parade. It was freezing cold, and I just grabbed the hat that was sitting on top of it, and I put it on my head, and it has been with me ever since because I'm like, oh, well, I'm not going to give this away to anybody else because it's already been on my head. I've got my scent on it, that sort of a thing. But every other item from that laundry bin found a good home, whether it was donated or gifted to somebody.
The hat is now part of your identity, your
It's,
style, your
yes,
signature.
it is part of it. You go to anywhere where there's a cold climate where I'm at and you look for a little seafoam green crocheted hat. That would be me.
That's you. I love it. I love it. I remember I was going to ask you. So you said your books on tape. What are you listening to? What books
So
do you like?
oh my goodness. Oh, how much longer you got? I have a to be read list of at least 500 books at
Oh
this
my goodness.
point. I
Well, how
have
many
a
books? Well, like, so a book on tape and a quilt. I mean, a crocheted item match the
yes,
time.
very much
Blanket
so.
to how much books?
Oh my goodness. It depends on the length of the book and it also depends on how fast I'm listening to it. So the library changed their format a couple of years ago, which means I can no longer just download a book and keep it on my iPod for several years at a time. So what I do now is I check out a book and then I listen to it on double speed so that I can get through it all the faster. It makes my life so much easier. I'm in the middle of reading a book or listening to a book called oh gosh, the name itself escapes me, but it was the basis of a mini series on Netflix about one of there was a cult that was really abusive to its members a number of years ago, and so it's that person's account of how she escaped and how she got some of her family members out, that sort of a thing. And so it's really interesting to hear it from her point of view because she was
Well,
in the documentary, but she was only one part in the bigger picture of the whole thing.
to get a little closer. Do you
Yeah.
crochet faster if it's exciting?
Actually, I think that I slowed down because at some point I'll just be like, wait, what happened? Whoa, I gotta like lock in and listen to this. What? Oh my gosh.
Now,
Sort of a
I
thing.
overheard, or a little bird told me, that you love movies.
Yes, I am a huge movie fan. If I'm not listening to an audiobook while I'm crafting, I will either have a movie or a TV show in the background playing.
So it's relaxing. You get to
It
learn
is.
something, experience something at the same time.
Yes, very much so. And it's also going back to that sense of accomplishment, that sense of, adding worth to yourself, just based on your small actions, such as, putting one stitch in front of the other. Cause like case in point, one of the projects that I'm doing this year is I call it a year-long project because it's a patchwork that has 357 patches. So I'm doing one patch a day for the full year. And then the last few days of the year, I'm sewing all of them together. So it'll be over
Oh,
next Christmas break where I'm just going to like lock in and be like, I'm sewing. Leave me alone.
that's really cool. That's really cool challenge.
It
I
is.
love
And
that.
it's
I
something
love
to look
that.
forward to.
So you've mentioned students and now you've mentioned Christmas break. So that leads me to believe what? You're a teacher.
Yes.
And what do you teach?
So I teach high school English at the moment, and I'm enjoying it far more than I thought I would in the grand scheme of things.
Really?
Yeah, I taught middle school for 3 years, and then I left for a decade because it really I needed a break, I needed a change of pace, and then I ended up working in the entertainment industry for the entirety of that 10
Mhm.
years.
Mhm.
Worked on films, I worked on, several different I worked for the opera, did several opera productions. I don't sing, they paid me to keep my mouth shut. You don't want me to sing, I sound like the seagull from The Little Mermaid on a good day.
So do you find any of your theater experience, and, uh, you said theater experience or entertainment experience, which word did you use?
Well, technically both. I grew up in the theater, so the stage was my first ever love. I love being on stage. I love working backstage, doing the business side, everything that goes with it.
So how has that helped you or hasn't helped you in the classroom?
Oh, definitely, because getting up there in front of people, you have to have those same public speaking skills that you would need to perform. But the difference is, rather than doing for theater, which is, the big booming voice, you have to do it for film where you have to bring it down a little bit. You have to lower your voice a little bit because the lower you talk, the less they're going to talk because they have to listen to what you're saying.
Mm, good clue. Good clue. So what's Shakespeare like in your classrooms?
Oh my gosh, I don't actually get to do a unit on Shakespeare with the
Don't.
two that
They're
I know.
wasting that.
I
What?
know, I'm so sad about that, I am so sad, but the trade-off is for my juniors, I get to do a unit on The Crucible, which is my favorite unit to do with them. I love working with them on The Crucible because after a while, they're like, "Hey, this character is kinda me." "Yeah, I know, just wait, just wait." "Wait a minute, did she just" "Yeah, she did." It's like, "Dude, she's exactly like a high school mean girl, you are correct, but no well, wait a minute, this guy's a bit of a yeah, he's totally a creep too," sort of
Oh,
thing. And that's with my juniors. With my sophomores, I get the last unit that I get to do with them is Antigone, which was actually
oh,
one of my
I know
favorite
that
units
one.
when I went through high school. That was one of my favorites. And so they don't know this, but their last major test is they're going to have to get up and perform a scene from Antigone. And I had a student last year, her first language is Mandarin, and she was always very quiet, very soft spoken, didn't speak very loudly. And she said, "I'm really nervous about doing this." I said you had to get up and perform, but I never said in what language. So she got up and did the whole thing, her whole part in Mandarin.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, "Wow,
Uh-huh.
I don't know what you're saying. You could be reading off a recipe for noodles, but you were my favorite person in the whole scene." I'm like, "Yes."
She
She
got it.
actually, I do the Chapman Awards after it's
Oh,
kind of
really?
like the Oscars. She won Best Actress.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So I want to know more about that relationship with your grandma. Did it strengthen it with her
Oh my
teaching you
gosh.
something? Does she love crochet or was it just a skill she needed to pass on? And
It was a
tell
skill
me
that
about
she
that.
needed it was a skill she needed to pass on because she didn't learn until after my gramps retired and they moved to the Houston area, and she got involved because I think it was a local women's group that taught her, and my understanding is that she made several blankets before she passed away, and I think that one of my uncles has them. And so she also taught me how to do needlepoint, and I ended up making a couple hundred coasters that I think all found good homes, but that was really the start of the crafting thing. I learned how to sew initially when I was 5 years old from my mom because my Grammy never learned how to sew. She couldn't even sew a button onto a shirt or hem a thing of a pair of pants or anything like that. But she could crochet, and she taught me because she saw that I have that creative bug. I have that need to create, that need to be useful and to make something useful for somebody else. And to her credit, she kept every single cross stitch, needlepoint, and embroidery thing that I ever made to the point
Oh, that is
where,
so cute.
oh yeah, well, when she passed away, that she still had a couple of them framed, and my sister actually took one of them because it was a cross stitch thing of a cat, and she loves cats. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine, you can have it. I'm okay with that. And all the other ones found homes as well. So I'm like, okay, good.
So do you think you yourself as a creative You're very generous. I mean, obviously, it kind of extrudes from you, this generosity. Do you feel that is with most creatives you meet and work with, especially in the industry you've just left? Or do you feel that's more for a few of you?
That's a very good question, actually. When it comes to somebody who creates something physical, whether it is a piece of art or clothing or something fiber arts like what I do, I really do think that they are a little bit more generous with their creations in terms of finding them good homes, making sure that they're put to good use. Now, as for the entertainment industry, for people who are just in front of the cameras or behind the cameras, it really does depend on the individual. It depends on what their main motive is. Like if they show up at a charity event, are they there because they care about that charity or are they there because they just want to save face, because they want to make themselves look good to their fans and to potential casting directors, those sorts of things. And it's really easy to tell when somebody is coming at it from a place of genuine interest in the piece itself, in the art itself, because it's really about how they interact with people who can do nothing for them. I read in a book somewhere years ago, if you want to know what somebody is really like, look at how they treat their inferiors, not their equals and not their superiors, because that says volumes about them. You should treat the janitor with the same respect that you would treat the CEO.
Yeah, or the waiter. I always look for
Yeah,
how people treat.
exactly.
Look at my hair, it's crazy. So vain, look at this. Uh, how you treat a waiter really
Yeah,
matters to me.
definitely.
Do you open doors for people? That kind of a thing. I can see what you're talking about. The character.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
and it
character
really
of a person.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it really does speak to somebody whether you say, like I was raised in a military household where I was raised to say, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. You got your teeth knocked out your mouth, basically. It also really says something if you call somebody Miss So and so or Mr. So and so when you address them, because
Mhm.
that also shows a sign of respect as well. So it does show. It starts from the bottom and it does work its way up from there.
Now you're living in Louisiana now, but you're not so talk Southern. So, and you just said you're military. How often did you move around and where are you from originally?
So I grew up in Texas. I grew up in the Houston area, and neither one of my parents were in the military, but both of my grandfathers were. My maternal grandfather was U.S. Navy, and my paternal grandfather was USAF. So, and my maternal grandparents, my mom's parents, lived about 45 minutes away from where I grew up. And so we were very lucky that we were able to see them as often as we did. In fact, I remember one year, I think I was in fifth grade, we saw my grandparents like every single week because every Monday they would come and pick us up and they would take us to their place. We'd get our homework done, go have fun for a couple of hours before my mom drove over and picked us up and then brought us back home. So there was that. And my Gramps was my rock. He was my anchor for the first year that I was teaching. He was the one who would say, nope, you're going to get up and you're going to, and he was, Catholic till the day he died, but he still would swear every now and then. He'd be like, you're going to get those little, insert swear word here, and you're going to show them who's boss, sort of a thing. Actually, that was my favorite Christmas present from this year. He and I took a picture when I graduated from high school, and I had that picture when I was in my college apartment, and I thought that I had lost it forever because it got lost in one of the moves. And my mom had a framed picture of it and gave it to me for Christmas, and I almost like started crying at that moment because I thought that I had lost that picture.
Very sweet.
Oh my gosh, yeah. My gramps was my rock. He was very, very supportive of everything that I did, always be like, "Hey, you're going to stand on your own 2 feet. You're going to be that independent person that I know you can be, and you are not going to be afraid. You're not allowed to be afraid. You could be a little bit scared, but you cannot give in to that." That sort of a thing.
When you're
Like get
teaching this when you're teaching junior high.
That was when I was teaching middle school. Yeah, he's like, "Go get on up, Toots, because your gramps love you." He was the Mickey to my Rocky Balboa, as it were.
You would need it, I think.
Oh, I needed it. I needed it when I was at that first school that I was at. That one was a tough year.
So you don't have that Southern accent.
No, I was actually trained from a very young age to speak without an accent of any kind, except for a regular mid-American accent where you can't tell where I'm from. Now, it
Oh,
does occasionally slip out, like if I was to say quarter or New Orleans, then you'd be able to hear the bit of the yat accent in there. And I do pick up accents very, very quickly. That's one of the skills that I kind of learned after doing theater for so long. And I remember I was working on I visited a show in Chicago several years ago, and I was performing as a Russian, and apparently it was my accent was so convincing that I had several people start speaking to me in Russian, and I would go, "I am not actually Russian. I don't understand what you just said."
oh, that's speaking of language, there has to be, speaking of language, and I did teach 1 year of English. Um, what terminology is there for crochet? There must be a world that you speak. Can you get together and just speak crochetish?
I love
Crochet?
that. Oh my gosh.
Crochet.
You just created a new word that I'm going to have to now tell everybody about. I love this. So, a lot of people refer to themselves as fiber artists, whether you knit, whether you crochet, whether you weave, or do something else that involves yarn or fabric. Most people will call themselves fiber artists. There are there's also craft enthusiasts, forgive how I'm about to describe this. I don't know if you can cut this or not, but a lot of crocheters will jokingly call themselves hookers. But it's only because we use the hook that looks like this, not, the other term.
I've heard quilters call themselves strippers because they
Yes. My
strip
mom
you. Yeah.
my mom makes quilts. She's done that for years. In fact, when I was a kid, I remember she spent 20 years working on one particular quilt by itself because she does not use a sewing machine. She does everything by hand.
Wow.
And
Even the
I never
piecing.
do what?
Even the piecing.
Yes, everything.
Oh, wow.
So I can remember when I was a kid, she would have small sections of the quilt that she was working on just to work on while she was watching like Law and Order or something like that. And I grew up watching her do that thinking, I'm not going to be that good. But turns out I've made more blankets than she has at this point in time.
Yours are a little quicker.
They are, but at the same time, if she were to go and use a sewing machine, she would be way faster than I am.
Yeah, she wouldn't be. She wouldn't be. So what are some of the terminology for stitches?
So there's you've heard me use the term frog, like I got a frog it because you got to rip it all out. Dropping a stitch is when, let's say that I'm doing something like that and I make a stitch and then, oh no, the hook just came out of the thing. So that one's easy to fix. If you knit and you drop a stitch, it's much tougher to get that back. I tried knitting before I tried crocheting. I just could not pick it up. It was something that my brain could not process. Now I know
That
people who are the
noise is irritating.
well, I think that it really depends
Yeah.
on what your own personal preference is. I liken it to the differences between skiing and snowboarding. You're using the same parts of your body, but you have to use them in different capacities. Like I've been skiing since I was 11 years old. You put me on a pair of skis on a mountain, I know exactly what I'm doing. You put me on a snowboard, you're going to have to also include knee pads, a butt pad, elbow pads, another helmet on top of the one that I'm already wearing and just a whole bunch of cushions because I'm coming back with a couple of bruises.
So you can get beat up. That's funny. Language of its own.
It is, and it's
Part
really
of its
one
own.
it really is, and it's one where, I've had some people who would say, "Yeah, I got about this, like, XD hours in or XD rows in, I realized I did the whole thing wrong, and I had to frog the whole thing," and I'm sitting there going, "Ooh," because that's happened to me before. The first time that I ever crocheted something following a pattern that like, a printed pattern, I got about maybe this far into it, about 3 or 4 hours worth, realized I did the whole thing wrong, and I had to frog the whole thing. That happened not once, not twice, but 5 times on my first blanket project where I followed a pattern. I finished it, I gave it to my dad for Christmas, and it sits on the back of his armchair at the house.
Have you ever just let the mistakes lay?
I have. Some of the times I have, and I have caught myself, especially with that first one, the one that I gave to my dad. I found a couple of errors in it after I had already given it to him, like several years after the fact. I'm sort of going, Ooh, I'm not pointing that out to them. I'm not saying anything. And there's also been a couple of times where I've gotten to the point where I'm almost done with the project, realize I did the whole thing wrong and I had to frog the whole thing. Oh, I was not happy about that. But because it was a bulkier sized yarn, it was easier for me to get the whole thing out and then catch up to where I was up to that point in time. That sort of a thing. And really just go from there. It's gonna be trial and error more than anything else, and just trying to, have fun with the process more than anything.
That is a great way to live life.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Artists and creatives don't need to just hang out in a small room or and just do their thing.
No,
People
you
get
need to.
out, there's guilds and there's groups and
Yes.
people who have the same shame hobbies, don't have shame hobbies, have the same hobbies and enjoy each other's company and can talk the language and can learn from each other. I think that's one of the greatest things about having a passion is finding other people who have the same passion and learning from
Very
each
much so. Yeah, and I think that it's a really good thing because you meet people who are either better than you or who could benefit from your expertise, and it always benefits you to help somebody else out, and it also gives you that sense of satisfaction, but also somebody else is in that group who's better than you. Like, "Okay, well, how would I do this?" Like, "Oh, that's awesome. You know what you're doing better than I do. Great. Let's go ahead and do that." I can remember a few years ago there was a group on Meetup called the Tipsy Knitters, and what they would do is they would bring their knitting projects to a bar, and they would just sit there and knit for, a couple of hours, and I brought myself along, like, "I crochet, can I join you?" They were like, "Yeah, come on over." And I found out that my mom had had a very similar experience when I was a baby, and at daycare, she would go and there was a group at the library called, Yarn It Darn It, I think was their name, and so she would go and quilt with them, and forgive the language, but she called it a stitching bitch. Because they would just bring their whatever they were working on and just craft and talk. It was really that chance for that fellowship, that sense of community.
while you're doing something and not staring at each other.
Right.
So you can really say some things that need to be said.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I had another question for you.
Sure.
And so I've had some pretty passionate people who have passions. That's what the show is about. And I have found that people who have passions are not afraid to say they're not experts
Well, I absolutely
and
am
they
not an expert.
learn from others. And I think that is a very cool thread because if you're passionate about something and you want to live it,
Yeah.
you want to learn. And
Exactly.
I don't know who the people are that out there to do something and are thinking they're already the best. But I think
No.
it's fascinating that I've had the guests I have are willing to learn. I think
Right.
it's a
Well,
great thing.
yeah, and I think that if you are willing to say that you're the best at something, that automatically does not make you the best at something because the person who is the number one absolute most best in the world isn't bragging about it.
That's true. That's true. It's like I'm so humble, aren't I?
Right. It's like as soon as you say that, you just brought attention to that. Therefore, it negates the humility that you were trying to practice.
Yes, that's very true. So before we end, what else do you want to tell me about yourself, crocheting, teaching, whatever?
Oh my gosh.
Seeing if this was heard from the world's top mountain, what would you
Okay.
say?
Well, my biggest thing is I make a lot of blankets every year, and every year they need to find good homes. So, if any of your listeners are interested in getting a blanket for free, have them send me an email with the subject line "blanket needed," and I will send them a custom made one, no questions asked. Sort of a thing. It's J.W. Chapman, spelled Chap as in Peter, MAN 86 at gmail.com. Send me what it is that you need, whether it's a baby blanket or a blanket for somebody's graduation. I make only one American flag blanket per year, and it always goes to someone who is going into the military. The one that I made last year went to my eldest godson because he's going into the U.S. Air Force, and the one from this year is going to one of my students from last year who's graduating this year and is going into the Army. So if you got anybody who is going into the military of any kind, you let me know. Doesn't matter what branch, if it's Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Navy SEALs, doesn't matter. Let me know because you will get an American themed one because the one for this year is going to be a Betsy Ross flag.
Well, thank you very much for speaking with me today. It's been a delight.
Yeah, it's been great talking to you too.
Oh, Joanna's, dear Joanne's, your aisles have met their fate. The coupons all expired while we wandered there till 8. Through fabric bolts and ribbon rolls, through glitter in the air. We lost 3 carts for grandmas and a husband somewhere there. You gave us yarn and rainbow heaps and buttons by the pound. Every August, fake pumpkins are stacked 6 feet off the ground. And Christmas decor came in June before the pool was warm, while skeletons and wreath displays achieved their final form. Glue guns burned our fingertips, sequins covered every shoe, and every pine cone centerpiece shed berries by the queue. Farewell to cricket, vinyl, felt, fleece, and floral foam. 2 candles no one needed, but still somehow brought home. The scrapbook moms are weeping, the cashiers softly sigh, while one last bead rolls down the aisle to say its last goodbye. So raise your bent embroidery thread and bows from seasons past. After all, glitter coupons and fake snow were never built to last.